This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Spain reports less than 400 COVID-19 deaths for a second day as it begins relaxing one of the world's strictest lockdowns. Congolese militia group reportedly kills 23 people in the northern DRC. And Uganda containing COVID-19 so far, but malaria is still killing an average of 16 Ugandans per day. Hello and welcome to Africa Live on CGTN with me, Beatrice Marshall in Nairobi. Africa Live begins right now. We begin with some of the latest figures on the COVID-19 pandemic. The number of confirmed cases is approaching 2.9 million globally. The death toll has topped 200,000. The U.S. recorded more than 1,900 deaths over the past 24 hours, bringing the total to over 50,000. There are now nearly 940,000 confirmed cases there. Worldwide, nearly half of all cases are in Europe. Spain recorded some 4,000 new cases over the past day, while Italy registered over 2,000. In the UK, total cases are nearing 150,000. Deaths there surpassed 20,000 on Saturday. Regional hotspot Turkey has seen a total infection surpass 107,000. The Chinese mainland confirmed 11 new cases on Saturday. 5 are people who had returned from abroad. In the United States, some states are beginning to reopen businesses and services despite warnings from health officials. Our correspondent Nathan King has more from Washington.
Here at the White House, it's very quiet this weekend. No coronavirus briefings scheduled, just as the U.S. passes that grim milestone of over 1 million cases here. And of course, approaching 60,000 deaths in the next few days, probably. Remember, that number was the number that just a few days ago, the US president was going to say, well, we'll probably come under that or way below. Well, that is no longer the model, even though we're starting to see a turn in the number of deaths, the number of hospitalizations, the number of very severe cases in states like New York. Still, hundreds of people are dying in New York every day, New Jersey too. And the big question now, of course, is this the right time to reopen the economy? Governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, said it would be stupid to risk everything. Essentially, they're back where they were 3 weeks ago, not 3 months ago. But other states like Georgia, as you know, parts of Florida, South Carolina are starting to open up. But the big worry is that you will see a spike in cases. Now, the US President, President Trump, has on one hand been cheerleading the states to open up. The cure can't be worse than the disease, as he said. He tweeted about that. But then he's come down on other governors like Georgia for maybe opening up too many businesses, like tattoo parlors and the like. But obviously, with 26.5 million people claiming unemployment benefit in little over a month, $3 trillion nearly of federal support in the economy, states want to get back to work. But the big question for a lot of states, including New York and elsewhere, is how do we safely go back to work? And the answer, of course, is testing. Now, even though the US says it's done the most tests, numerically that is true, but it's a very large country. Per capita is good, and they didn't test as early. In fact, when they're testing now, they're seeing a 20% infection rate. That's far higher than Germany, which has 7%, or the Republic of Korea, which is low on 2%. The suggestion is there's many more cases out there that haven't been diagnosed. Are you going to see more deaths, more severe cases as a result of people moving about again? It's a very, very difficult question. The health of the American public and the health of the US economy, lives versus livelihoods, as some people have said. And you can see this White House and the entire United States grappling with that question, often states pointing finger at other states as well. Nathan King, CGTN, at the White House.
Well, there's ongoing debate among states over when to let businesses start again, with protests both for and against the restrictions. Dan Williams reports from Chicago.
The COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc across the world. It has also exposed divisions and disagreement, not least on how best to reopen economies. The stay-at-home orders were implemented to slow the spread of the virus, but across the US there have been demonstrations both for and against the lifting of those orders. Georgia has already begun rolling back restrictions. Despite rising numbers of confirmed cases and deaths, the governor, Brian Kemp, has allowed businesses such as gyms, hairdressers, tattoo parlours and bowling alleys to reopen. Dine-in restaurants and theatres can reopen on Monday. Some have welcomed the news.
I walked in at 6 and I started cutting hair, and this is the first time I slowed down. I got to pay rent and I got to pay my barber some money to help them out.
But others were less enthusiastic and made their thoughts known outside Georgia's governor's mansion. Protesters in South Carolina also took to the streets to demonstrate against their stay-at-home order. That despite a loosening on some restrictions, including access to public beaches. And there were similar scenes of protest further north in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin governor, Tony Evers, also recently announced a loosening of restrictions, allowing some retail stores to operate with curbside pickup and golf courses to reopen. But at a rally outside the state capitol building in Madison, some say that's simply not enough.
We're here to send Governor Evers a message, because the biggest concern is that the solution is going to be more harmful than the virus itself.
I think it's overblown. I believe it's true that there is people being died, but they're going way overboard with the lockdown.
The US does not have a single unified strategy. Other states, including Illinois and Pennsylvania, are taking a more cautious approach, with recently announced extensions to their stay-at-home orders. The fear remains that opening up too early would bring a second wave of infections that could force a financially devastating second lockdown. Dan Williams, CGTN, Chicago.
And in Europe, Spaniards will be allowed out for exercise and to take walks from next weekend. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said Saturday the latest move to ease one of the world's tightest coronavirus lockdowns. And the government will on Tuesday unveil its broader lockdown exit plan that will likely be put into action in the second half of May.
This transition will be asymmetrical. In other words, it will depend on the territory in which you live. We went in together and we will go out together as a country. The de-escalation must be done as a team. We will do it at different speeds depending on the epidemic in each place, asymmetrically, yes, but in a coordinated way.
For more on this, we're now joined by Rahul Pathak in Madrid and Natalie Carney in Munich. Rahul, first to you though, because Spain has reported less than 400 coronavirus-related deaths this week and is set to relax some of the lockdowns. Can you update us on this?
Yeah, well, here in Spain, children under the age of 14 have been allowed out for the first time in nearly 7 weeks of the national lockdown here. Up until now, they could only leave their homes or with their parents if their parents needed to go out shopping for either food or for medicine, and if there was no one else at home to look after them. Now, with up to 2/3 of children in Spain living in these high-rise apartment blocks, and they have no access to a back garden, for instance, so no opportunity to go out to play, and that's placed young families here under immense pressure. But from today, children will be allowed for up to an hour a day to go outside, accompanied by one parent to walk, run or play in an area no further than 1 kilometre away from their homes. And judging by the looks of my cameraman and my producer, both of whom have young families, there are a lot of very relieved parents in Spain today. But it's also, there's a general easing of restrictions been announced by Pedro Sanchez. You were hearing from him just now. He says that from May the 2nd they could allow people just to go outside for exercises, but that's only if the rate of infections continues to slow. Brenda?
Well, Natalie, in Germany though, it has been easing some restrictions. What do we know about this, and tell us about the latest number of infections reported there?
Yeah, Yes, and even during the official full lockdown here in Germany, we did still have the right to go outside and exercise in the park. So we haven't had to endure the strictness of restrictions as Spain is just coming out of at the moment. But as far as the numbers we have here in Germany, they are still quite high. The fifth most infected country in the world, 152,000 cases of infections across the country, with 255 new cases announced on Saturday. But the good news there is that this is the second consecutive day of lower numbers, of a decrease in new infections following 3 days of an increase in numbers of newly infected. On Monday, all across Germany, all 16 states will implement mandatory mask wearing, which means that everyone leaving the house will have to wear a protective mask over their nose, over their mouth. There will be some variations between the states. Here in Bavaria, for instance, where I'm speaking from, the city of Munich, we will have to wear masks on public transport, in the shopping malls and shopping, the markets that we go to. Any sort of public life indoors will require us to wear a mask or be subject to a fine of upwards of €150.
Rahul, Spain, though, is increasingly using antibody tests. What's the thinking behind this?
Well, yes, these tests show whether or not a person's immune system has developed defences against the virus, against the COVID-19 virus, and they help to determine whether or not these antibody tests help to determine whether or not they have indeed been infected. And increased testing would allow officials to begin gathering data on the overall number of people who've been infected. So the health ministry say that in Spain they've nearly quadrupled the amount of testing from 200,000 a week to nearly 700,000 a week. Brenda.
All right, and Natalie, a very quick one to you, though, because as Germany is enjoying, ease some of the restrictions in place, health authorities are warning, though, of a potential second wave of infection. What do we know about this?
Well, everywhere in the world, really, there is a concern of a second wave of infections. Even before the easing measures were being discussed, virologists were warning not to act too hastily. Angela Merkel has even recently announced that we are still on the thinnest of thin ice. So we all must be incredibly vigilant throughout this process of easing. In the capital, Berlin, even, the exhibition center there, part of it is being constructed right now to make room for a 1,000-bed hospital in case there is a need for extra medical support and capacity due to a second wave through the country. Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, and the heads of the 16 federal states are expected to discuss on Thursday further easing measures. However, the Center of Disease Control here in Germany has made it very, very important and warned that there really needs to be a drop in the number of daily confirmed cases to only a few hundred before we can even think about going into a second phase of easing measures here in the country. And again, as of Saturday, numbers of new infections were as high as 2,055. So I think we still have a long way to go before we can start discussing further in releasing the restrictions on public life to avoid a second wave.
All right, Natalie Carney joining us there from Munich, and Rahul Pathak in Madrid. To you both, thank you. The Ministry of Health and COVID-19 Task Force in Tunisia have received Chinese drones equipped with temperature sensors and loudspeakers. The drones are donated by the Telnet Group as part of strengthening the ministry's logistical services against the spread of coronavirus. CGTN's Aden Chauchi tells us more from Tunis.
The Tunisian engineering and technology consulting company Telnet has launched a technological partnership with the Chinese company DJI to support the government's efforts in the fight against the pandemic.
Telnet's donation is in partnership with the Chinese company DJI. It is the world leader in the manufacture of civil intelligent drones. We're integrating our software and artificial intelligent tools. The same drones we use in the Chinese city of Wuhan to face the corona crisis.
The drones will be deployed during the general lockdown in the suburbs of the capital city Tunis.
The objective of this project is temperature control missions and to broadcast messages to citizens so that they adhere to the prevention measures. Drone pilots of the Ministry of Agriculture are at the service of the Ministry of Health on these missions.
The Health Commission at the Tunisian Parliament has welcomed the initiative. MPs say the Chinese drones will support the state effort in stopping the spread of the virus.
This technology is revolutionary, and it facilitates the work of the COVID-19 task force. The drones can operate anywhere and limit person-to-person contact.
Telnet Group and the Ministry of Health have announced that this type of drone allows large-scale sweeps to measure the temperature of citizens in a large area of 7 kilometers in diameter.
According to the COVID-19 task force, the drones will be operated by pilots who will be accompanied by health officials. Drones will search for people walking around during the general lockdown and urge them to stay at home. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
You're watching Africa Live. Still ahead on the program. Congolese militia group reportedly kills 23 people in the northern DRC. And Uganda containing COVID-19 so far, but malaria is still killing an average of 16 Ugandans per day.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
It has been dubbed as the world's worst health crisis in modern history. The coronavirus pandemic is threatening to rip apart Africa's social and economic fabric.
Consider a risk are guided to a special facility where the entire flight get tested for COVID-19.
CGTN shares the struggles, the pain, and the anguish as African economies are moving to triumph over COVID-19.
At least 12 rangers have been killed in an attack at the Virunga National Park in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. 5 civilians were also murdered during the assault. Local officials have blamed the killings on a Rwandan rebel group operating in the country. CGTN's Chris Ochamringa reports from Kinshasa.
The Congolese Institute for Nature Conservation says the rangers were killed as they tried to help civilians who were attacked by assailants. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack, but local leaders believe it was carried out by a Rwandan militia known as FDLR. The leaders say at least 60 FDLR fighters ambushed a convoy of civilians that was being escorted by the rangers. Virunga National Park is located along the DRC's border with Rwanda and Uganda. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site that's popular for its mountain gorillas. It's home to over half the global population of the primates. But militiamen and poachers have been carrying out many attacks in the area. In 2018, the park was closed for over 9 months because of several killings of rangers. Authorities have described the Friday attack as the worst in recent history. Last month, the park was closed to the public to protect the gorillas from COVID-19. Chris Ochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Meanwhile, a Congolese militia group has reportedly killed 23 people in the northeastern region of Ituri. The attack on Friday was reportedly carried out by Codeco, a local armed group active in the area. Local media reported that there was a low presence of security forces in the area. The militia is reportedly occupying a number of villages in the area of Jugu. For more on this, Chris Ochamringa is joining us from Kinshasa. Chris, can you give us an update on these attacks in Ituri?
Yes, so the attack happened on Friday in a village known as Ngurahi in Ituri province. That's in the northeast of the DRC. We've been told that militia men from a group known as the Cooperative for the Development of Congo, CODECO, descended on the village and started killing civilians in retaliation for the killing of 2 of their members by the locals in the area. Now, they burnt houses, which triggered the displacement of thousands of people to neighboring villages. The Congolese troops had a very small presence in the area, and they had to seek reinforcement from a neighboring area. And then that's when the soldiers managed to repulse the rebels. They killed 6 of them and captured others, but 2 Congolese troops were killed in the attack. The CODECO group is a militia that is composed of members of an ethnic group known as the Lendu. These are farmers who have had a long-standing conflict with the cattle-keeping community known as the Hema. And in 1999, tens of thousands of people were killed in conflict there that sucked in troops from Rwanda and Uganda. And so this is a conflict that has been going on for a very long time. Beatrice?
So, Chris, you talked about the Congolese soldiers already. They're repulsing the militia. But what else are the authorities doing to respond to this situation, and what's being done to secure the area in the long term?
Well, the authorities have said that they're going to intensify the fight against these rebels, the CODECO rebels, who have caused a lot of attacks in the area, killings of civilians in the area. They're going to ramp up their fight against these rebels, and also all the other militia groups in the entire east of the DRC. There are more than 100 fighters there. The government says they're going to step up their fight, but you know, it's a very difficult issue to deal with, because the Congolese government is dealing with very many crises, the epidemics, and you know, they don't have enough money to deal with all these. So they're relying on the support of people like UN peacekeepers who are working together with the Congolese troops to try and see that peace is restored in the area. The WFP and other humanitarian agencies have also said that this conflict has made it very difficult for them to respond to humanitarian assistance in those areas that have been, you know, hit by the COVID-19 cases. And so it's a very complicated situation for authorities in DRC, who are trying to deal with insecurity, epidemics, you know, and a number of other problems in the country right now.
All right, Chris Ochamringa joining us there from Kinshasa. Now, Saturday marked the World Malaria Day. And as Uganda struggles to contain COVID-19, it is also trying to reduce malarial-related deaths. The East African country has not registered any coronavirus-related death, but continues to lose an average of 16 people every day to malaria. This is according to the country's health ministry. Here's CGTN's Hilary Ayesiga with more.
A campaign against malaria. Health workers spray insecticide at marketplaces. They want to reduce the malaria burden during the COVID-19 pandemic.
COVID is bad enough to constrain the health system. So we need other preventable diseases all to be kept at bay.
Figures from Uganda's health ministry show that the country registers 25,000 cases of malaria per day. Uganda is currently under a partial lockdown, and most of these traders spend a night here. But to keep them safe from malaria, local authorities are now promoting preventive methods. Health workers say waterlogged areas and overgrown bush are breeding grounds for mosquitoes that cause malaria. Apart from spraying the area, they are also giving them treated bed nets.
We have to make sure that while we keep distance in where we sleep under the bed nets. That when we have fever, we go to the health services to get checked, so that malaria does not kill while we are taking care of COVID.
Ugandan scientists plan to breed genetically modified mosquitoes as part of a plan to fight malaria in Africa. But that's a long-term solution. And for now, the health ministry says anti-malaria drugs, use of mosquito nets, and indoor spraying are the best available weapons to keep the killer disease at bay. Hilary Ayesiga, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
On to Somalia now, and Al-Shabaab has attacked a domestic airport south of Mogadishu this week. The African Union mission in Somalia said their troops fended off the attack, but it's raised concerns on how medical supplies can reach militant-controlled regions amid the coronavirus pandemic. From Mogadishu, here's Abdulaziz Bilo.
The blast took place near this recently built airport in Barawe, about 180 kilometers south of the Somali capital, Mogadishu. Militant group Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for both blasts, claiming to have targeted Ugandan forces serving under the multinational African Union force tasked with securing the strategic airport. The African Union mission has downplayed Al-Shabaab's comments, insisting that its troops repulsed an attack at Barawe airport. The town was captured from the group in 2014, dealing an economic and military blow to the insurgent group.
Both explosions were timely and took place very early in the morning on the first day of Ramadan. It seems the target was Ugandan forces and the newly built airport that Al-Shabaab sees as a threat.
Each year, Al-Shabaab ramps up its campaigns during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, increasing its attacks on army bases and government facilities across much of the country. The $4.3 million airport funded by the European Union was unveiled last month by the country's Prime Minister. Al-Shabaab has blockaded the coastal town, meaning authorities here rely on air transport for crucial supplies, including medical assistance. Friday's attack on the airport in Barawe has raised concerns on how the Somali government plans on sending medical assistance on the ground in case of an outbreak of coronavirus. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged for an end to conflict as the world focuses on addressing the COVID-19 pandemic.
The attack on the airport will pose a logistical challenge to authorities. The government is now fighting COVID-19 and is distributing medical supplies to regions. Insecurity will likely hamper efforts to handle cases in areas outside major towns under the government.
The country's army has in recent months pushed out the group from towns and villages in the Lower Shabelle region, long regarded as the epicenter of the decade-long insurgency. Janale was the latest to be retaken from Al-Shabaab, with army commanders vowing to end the group's control of surrounding towns and villages and reopen key supply routes cut off for years. Abdulaziz Bilo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
While Tunisian engineers have developed a coronavirus scanning tool, the technology is aided by artificial intelligence. It is still under development, but it already boasts a 90% accuracy rate. Adnan Chauchi reports again from Tunis.
Mustafa Hamdi is leading a team of Tunisian university professors and engineering students. They have developed a tool to scan lung X-rays and evaluate whether patients are likely to be suffering from COVID-19. And it's all done through a web-based platform.
We have uploaded to the platform X-rays of coronavirus patients' lungs provided by China, Italy and other countries, as well as X-rays of people who tested negative. We trained the platform that give it new X-rays and it can later classify and recognize coronavirus cases.
The expert in artificial intelligence adds that the invention is being tested at many hospitals and COVID-19 centers across the North African country.
Artificial intelligence can analyze data and many X-rays in a very short period of time. The results are instant. The cost is very cheap and the platform is not centralized. That is, it can be used anywhere in inner regions in the country. We just need X-ray machines.
The Ministry of Industry has welcomed the considerable effort made by Tunisian inventors. Salah Ben Youssef also noted during a hearing session at the Parliamentary Commission on Industry that the state will support all initiatives to face the coronavirus pandemic.
Since the outbreak of the pandemic, many things have changed in Tunisia. Our researchers are very competent. The Ministry of Industry is working closely with all inventors. The wave of inventions is unprecedented.
The new platform has been developed with the support of German Development Agency, GIZ, the Italian Society of Medical Radiology, and US tech giant IBM.
The Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Higher Education have approved the testing of the new invention. Thousands of X-rays of the lungs of both healthy people and COVID-19 patients have been fed into the new platform, allowing artificial intelligence to learn to recognize the marks of the virus on the lungs. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
You're watching Africa Live, still ahead on the program. Tunisia to benefit from almost $650 million from the European Union to fight COVID-19. And a look at the impact of the ongoing lockdown in South Africa.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Tunisia will benefit from a concessional loan of almost $650 million granted by the European Union to fight the coronavirus pandemic. According to a statement from the European Union Commission, the facility is part of a $3.2 billion aid program for 10 countries in and around Europe, available for 12 months. The financing will be used to strengthen the resilience of the Tunisian economy and will help limit the economic fallout from the pandemic. CGTN's Adnan Chauchi joins us from Tunis.
This macro-financial assistance is part of the European Union's initiative to support the effort of some of its partner countries in limiting the negative economic and social repercussions of the COVID-19 crisis.
The total of the EU's macro-financial assistance package is €3 billion. With €600 million, Tunisia is the second largest beneficiary after Ukraine, which has been granted €1.2 billion. There are several loan conditions for the aid and is only given to countries that have a clear reform program with the International Monetary Fund.
The senior financial analyst adds that the pandemic will have innumerable consequences on the Tunisian economy. Consequently, the state will need additional resources to address this unprecedented situation.
All beneficiaries, including Tunisia, have freedom to use the funds in the way they deem right, but the final objective is to improve the balance of payments. That is, Tunisia will face problems at the level for its foreign exchange reserves, current account deficit as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. The central bank will be in charge of distributing the financial assistance.
Members of the Finance Commission at the House of the People's Representatives assert that Tunisia needs more support from its foreign partners to limit the impact of the COVID-19 crisis.
The EU support at this critical period is very important. The state budget needs external resources because the economy has stopped to tackle the pandemic that is taking a toll on the health, social and economic aspects. The post-COVID-19 period and the post-general lockdown will be very difficult and any financial support is welcome.
The governor of the Central Bank of Tunisia and the Minister of Finance have examined the progress of mechanisms for refinancing and guaranteeing credits granted by banks to companies impacted by the pandemic.
Experts assert that the EU's €600 million microfinancing assistance to Tunisia will help the government implement its national emergency plan to support small and medium-sized enterprises and businesses that are affected by the economic consequences of the pandemic and its social impact on the population. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Well, after its passenger services came to almost a complete halt due to the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, Africa's largest airline, Ethiopian Airlines, has ramped up its cargo services as one way to boost its revenues. The Addis Ababa-based airline has announced its cargo business has grown at least 3 times over the past few months and says it is converting passenger planes to cargo planes to take advantage of the rising trade in cargo business. Here's CGTN's Girum Chala.
These more than 100 Ethiopian Airlines owned fleet of passenger planes are parked for days now. The serious impacts of the coronavirus triggered flight restrictions have already been seen here. But ET is making profits somewhere else. It's a cargo business.
We are operating in a triangular way. We go with perishable agricultural products from here to Europe, then industrial high-tech products from Europe to China, then from China, the industrial products of the textiles, personal effects, and other electronics and electronic equipment and mobile batteries. We transport to the rest of Africa. So it's a triangular type of business. We are growing, I can say, almost double and triple times.
Over the past 10 years, Ethiopia's flag carrier has aggressively invested on cargo planes and service facilities, which has finally paid off.
This is a state-of-the-art distribution center, as you can see, with cold storage of different adjustable temperatures. Over this also there is dry store with fully automated machineries. And 10 777 freighters, airplanes, two 737 freighters.
Unlike the passenger side of the airliner, the cargo unit here is thriving and is busier than it has ever been. Ethiopian Airlines also says it is removing chairs from passenger aircrafts, raiding them for more cargo business.
We were also among the very first airline to convert passenger airplane to cargo, meaning starting to load cargo in the cabin. Now, we have also started removing seats from the passenger aircraft. So we're making it entirely cargo.
Ethiopian Airlines is also the one airline responsible in transporting hundreds of thousands of tons of medical consignments, mainly from China and the rest of the world, to Africa. The CEO says ET is determined to continue its performance during these difficult times.
Ethiopia as an economy, as a country, cannot afford to give us bailout money like the US or Europe or Dubai or Qatar. We know that our country has a lot of quite many pressing and urgent priorities in this crisis. So we are very determined among ourselves, 17,000 employees, to make sure that the airline survives within its own internal resources.
Currently, ET's cargo facility is also serving as UN's Africa humanitarian air hub for COVID-19 response. Many say Ethiopian Airlines is playing a historic role. Grumjala, CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
South Africa has managed to keep its COVID-19 infection rate low compared to other countries. But since the lockdown started on the 26th of March, the infection rate dropped from over 40% to 4%. But the lockdown is starting to cause other problems like poverty and starvation. Hundreds of people are unable to work in order to feed themselves and their families. Sumitra Naidu reports.
Lesego Modise is the director of a food manufacturing company in Johannesburg. Buntu Foods produces a number of edible products for Nestle, one of the world's largest food and beverage companies.
We produce for Nestle, but we also produce our own brands. We have our own soya, we have our own instant mache, we have our own instant porridge, we have soups, we have cereals, and we are hoping to grow the product range with time. We are one of the youngest producers, co-packers, but we believe that we're probably going to have one of the biggest brands because we have takeoffs with countries like Rwanda.
Modise has a permit to continue working during the lockdown, but he wants to help those less fortunate. His company is still able to provide work for his staff so they can provide for their families.
The current situation with the COVID-19 has created opportunities and also challenges. It was just about us thinking outside the box and positioning ourselves differently. Everybody's losing money, I think. We are losing money, but we're keeping our head afloat and remodeling how we're doing business. We have 127 people, and myself included in that, and we've gone from running 2 shifts to running 3 shifts.
During this lockdown, most families have lost their only source of income, making it hard to buy food.
Sharing is? Yes. As a parent, it's afforded me a chance to take my children on a journey of understanding. We have a saying in my house that sharing is caring. My children are starting to understand that by giving back, you know? That's important to me. You know what? In every situation, there's opportunities. It has actually allowed me to put my brand into people's hands faster without a retailer.
The lockdown has definitely brought forward selfless acts among South Africans, the true definition of Ubuntu. Sumitra Nadu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And we still have more news for you here on the program. Here's what's ahead. A refugee in the DRC finds escape and therapy by making dolls.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Kanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
A refugee is using her craft as a therapy years after fleeing her home country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. 28-year-old Kituzi lives in Mozambique, where she makes dolls for a living.
With each doll she makes, Kituza finds healing from the brutal assault she survived in her home country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. In 2008, she was kidnapped after rebels attacked her hometown one night. They raped and killed her parents. She was only 16 years old.
I have suffered a lot. It's been a tough journey. But when I look at the dolls, I know that I made them, and I feel relief. My hope is to continue making these dolls and make a living through this work.
Kituza learned the art of making dolls at a local church group in a camp where she sought refuge. She makes the dolls from second-hand materials and a colorful African fabric.
To me, these are like people. They are human. I give them features like eyes and ears, even earrings. They make children happy, and I love them too. The first time, I made only one. I took it to the Catholic church in the camp, and I showed it to a nun called Giovanna. She loved it so much that she made an order of 160 dolls. She took them to Italy, and she paid me.
Refugees' access to work and their ability to be self-reliant is a crucial element for this group. But it is not easy. Agencies like UNHCR are coming in to help manage and grow their businesses.
I love this work. It's a part of me. I never went to school. Those who are educated are the ones who get jobs. For me, making these dolls helps me in the future, and that is why I do it with all my heart.
With such opportunities to work and start businesses, Kituza and fellow refugees can gradually reduce dependence on relief aid. Chomgono, CGTN.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has poked fun at himself after a face mask mishap during a televised speech. His fumble has prompted reactions on social media by amused viewers. CGTN's Yolisa Njemela has more on this story.
Way of living.
President Cyril Ramaphosa had just finished addressing the nation on the critical matter of the coronavirus and on how important it is to wear a mask at this time. But the demonstration didn't quite go as planned. Even the translator was left dumbstruck. South Africans were left in stitches, and within minutes, reactions and memes started rolling in, proving again that the sense of humor of South Africans in reacting to adverse conditions remains unmatched. Even the #1 citizen showed the country his humorous side.
No way. Those who are laughing at me. Now, let me tell you something. I'm going to open a TV channel where I'm going to teach people how to put on a mask. So you can enroll how a mask is put on.
Well, a little laugh goes a long way, even during tough times. Yodisa Njomela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
And your sports news now coming up next. Here's what's ahead. FIFA to release funds to help cushion African member states during the COVID-19 pandemic.